October book wrap up. Woo! Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. You guessed it, it is my October book wrap up video. So I'm going to be talking about the 10 books that I read this month, and I gotta say, just right off the bat, this was a really good reading month. I read so many good books. I did have a couple 5-star reads, which I'm excited to talk about, and I DNFed a book this month. This was like the second book that I've DNF'd this whole year. I've powered through every single book that has been on my list or that I've started. I have finished it except for 2 books. And there was one book that I DNF'd this month, and I'm so sad. I'm so sad that I wasn't able to finish it. I have a few reasons why I didn't. I'm really excited to get into it though, so let's get on into the video. So the first book of the month was the book I DNF'd. So I started the month reading Girl, Serpent, and Thorn by Melissa Bashardoust. I don't know if I said that right. And I DNF'd it. It was such a bad way to start the month. I got halfway. You can see my bookmark is still in the book. I got halfway through the book, and the main reason why I DNF'd this book, so I don't have a rating for it, obviously, since I have not finished it yet, but the reason why I DNF'd it was because I was like about 50 pages in. This is the type of book where it gives you Shatter Me vibes, where the main character, she's a princess and no one can touch her. If you touch her, you die. So she's like poisonous to the touch. So Shatter Me, same thing. There's a lot of words in this book, a lot of vocab that is very confusing and doesn't make a lot of sense. So like with whatever language it is that they speak. So I looked at the back of the book thinking, oh, maybe they have like a little, word guide. So that way I could understand what it means what, and luckily there was. However, when I was reading through all the words, one of the biggest plot twists was spoiled for me within the little author's note where it had all of the words written for you, so that way it like had a little paragraph next to each word and it explained what that was. And the way this author did it was, instead of just putting what like the main thing, like just the definition of the word, which is what I was looking for, it gave you a paragraph and it basically explained in the book what that word meant and what happened in the story that went along with that word. So it spoiled a lot of things. It was the first word. There was one word that I was really confused on and I didn't understand. And of course, that was the biggest plot twist of the entire book. It just gave away so many things, and I'm so disappointed that I read that. If I didn't read that, I think I would have finished this book. And also, I got about halfway, and by the time I got halfway, I just wasn't vibing with the book anymore because I knew what was going to happen, and I also didn't really like just what I was reading at that time. So I was starting to go into kind of a book slump, so that's why I DNF'd this book. I am going to keep this book because I think maybe in the future I might eventually get back to it, but for now, first book of the month, DNF. The second book of the month was my first 5-star read of the month, and I'm so excited about this book. I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Absolutely loved and devoured this book. I read this book, I think, within a day because it was so good. As soon as I opened this book, I fell in love with the characters, loved the 2 main characters. Such good chemistry, and they just were so funny. I loved the main guy in this book. He was just so charismatic, and it was just so much fun to read their conversations. I had moments where I was reading this where I would literally laugh and I would get giddy, and anytime I put the book down, I just wanted to pick it back up. And it's a month later and I'm still thinking about this story. I'm still thinking about these characters. So that's when I know a book is a true 5 stars, is if I'm still really wanting to be in that world. And I'm so excited for the second book. The way it ended is just, I'm ready to go right on in. I might reread this before reading the second book because I miss this story. I miss these characters so much. If you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas or Fourth Wing, Rebecca Ross, absolutely recommend this book because it kind of gave those vibes. It does not have dragons in it, but just the way the story is told and the types of characters and like their personalities, it just went right along and fits in with all of my top favorite authors and book characters. The next book I read was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I rated this book a 4 stars. This was a very cute rom-com book. This was perfect for the month of October because it just fit right in with that storybook type of story. And I loved the characters in this book. It was grumpy sunshine trope. So the boss, the villain, he's grumpy, and the sunshine main character who is his assistant. Obviously, it's just about their relationship. I really enjoyed this book. I really liked getting to see the dual point of view. So I really liked getting to see the villain's perspective as well as the main character in this book, and they were just so funny and so cute. This was such a sweet read. It is gonna have another book because it ends in a cliffhanger, not like a huge one, but a little cliffhanger to the point where you know that the author will pick this story back up, hopefully. Maybe next October I'll read the second book, but really enjoyed this book and enjoyed the characters, so 4 stars. The next book I read was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Icebreaker series. I'm not sure what the name, a Maple Hills novel. So it's the Maple Hills series. This one, I gave it a 4.5 stars. Really loved this story. It was a really cute romance. Loved the 2 main characters. I felt like they had such a deep connection, and I really enjoyed getting to see how the author was able to just show how you can go from an awkward encounter and then turn it into something good and deep. And I could just tell that these 2 characters, they really built like a solid foundation with each other because they both came from 2 very kind of toxic households, and getting to see them work through their family trauma and things that they had happen to them in their childhood, I felt like it just made the story so much more deep and serious, and it made me fall in love with these characters. And you do get sneak peeks of the Icebreaker characters as well, so it was really fun getting to see where some of my favorite characters from that book, what they were doing now in this one, and it was just really fun. I would recommend this to anyone who enjoys a good romance, and it's set at a summer camp, which I really love that. I love that setting in a book. Next book, Butcher and Blackbird. So on that note, we're switching over to a darker romance. This is by Bryn Weaver, and I just have to say this book took me by surprise. And what I mean by that is I haven't read a whole lot of dark romance books. I did read one last month, and it kind of got me into that kind of headspace, so I knew kind of what to expect. There were a lot of trigger warnings at the beginning of this book, so I also read that knowing in advance. That helped me, I think, a little bit. But it's about 2 serial killers who fall in love. I did talk about this book in a reading vlog where I was reading romances for a week, and I went more in depth on this book, but I ranked this one a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It took me by surprise because I just found myself laughing so much during this book. I think the 2 main characters have very dry senses of humor, and darker senses of humor since they're literally serial killers. And I really enjoy watching like Criminal Minds. I love psychology and just like the like science of it all. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just enjoy all things that have to do with your mind and just what makes a person do what they do. I enjoyed getting to see the background of each of these characters and getting to see how they were able to work with each other and also slowly fall in love and like learning to trust one another. I thought that was really fun to watch and read, and I am going to be reading the next book. I do believe there's going to be a second book after this because it looks like it's going to be a trilogy based off of the title. Next book I read was Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. This one I ranked at 3.5 stars. I went into depth why in my reading vlog about the romances as well. But in this book, I think it took me a while to read this one, and I don't even know why. It was more of a cutesy romance, like a second chance love. And I don't hate that in books. However, I just felt like getting to see the 2 characters reconnect and re-fall in love in this one, I just didn't vibe well. I didn't really get to see or feel the romance between them. I felt like they almost jumped in way too quickly, or like they hadn't worked through all their issues yet when all of a sudden they were together again. So I think that might have thrown me off, but not my favorite. It was still a decent romance book. I thought it was more of like a comfort read. This would be something I would read in the fall because it was definitely a cozier romance. I did enjoy getting to see the back and forth because you get to read the main character's diary, so you get to see how they met and grew up together, and then it would switch back to the present day, which is like 10 years in the future. So I did enjoy that part of it, and getting to read about the guy in this book meeting and getting to know his daughter in the future. I liked their relationship a lot. I just didn't like the two main characters' relationship. The next book I read was This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham, and this one I thought I was gonna enjoy it, but however, it just didn't sit well with me, and I don't know why. I would probably give it like a 2.5 stars. It was a decent book, and I really enjoyed like the whole setting of it. It was set at like a concert out in the desert, so think Coachella. It was kind of like that, but with cannibals. And so in this one, you're just following a group of girls who are all friends, and they go to this music festival out in the desert, and all of them are cannibals. It was different. It was an odd book, and I don't even know if I could put my finger on what exactly I didn't like. It just, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this one, except it just wasn't my favorite. The next book I read was the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. This was a 5 stars book for me, and it is a series, so it's books 1 through 5, but it is a massive book, so all 5 books were put into one book. So I think, how many pages are in this? Almost 700 pages are in this book, so I'm just gonna count this as one because it kind of felt like just one really big book. There are parts where it does have a lot of high points, like plot twists or cliffhangers, but then you go right into the next book. I'm gonna count this as one book, but I loved this series. Loved it so much. I'm still thinking about the characters. I was kind of in a book hangover after reading this book for a few, like almost like a week after I finished reading this. I was still thinking about this book and these characters. Like, I think I will eventually reread this because it was so good. The main character is a serial killer, and she ends up falling in love with the FBI agent who is trying to catch her. So it was very fun. It was really cool getting to see her perspective and also getting to see the FBI agent's, her boyfriend's perspective as well. And it was just fun. I felt like it kept me guessing the entire time. And now that I know why she was doing what she was doing, like the whole time I was just on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going on, why she was killing the people who she was killing. She kept kind of alluding to the fact of what happened to her, but you slowly get pieces of her past. So you slowly get pieces of her past as you move from book to book. And I love these characters so much. There's also a little bit of a found family because there's other side characters who you meet and fall in love with as you go on, and they're just such a good group. I devoured this book. I finished this within, I think, 2 days, and it was so good. The next book I read was Falling by T.J. Newman. I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. Now, let me tell you this. I did not think I was going to give it 4 stars at the beginning of this book. I did not think I was going to give this book 4 stars when I started it because it was kind of a slower read for me. I was still getting over the Mind F series. I was still thinking about that book, and I think I was just in that headspace, and that's probably why I wasn't enjoying it as much as I could have at the beginning. However, not to say that this book wasn't good. It jumps right into the action from the get-go. So don't take what I say against this book because it was a very good book. It was about a pilot who is flying this flight, and he gets an email from his wife, opens it, it's a picture of his wife and his 2 kids who are being held at gunpoint by a terrorist. And the terrorist then says, either you crash your plane or I kill your whole family. Very action-y thriller. This really made me think about what I would do in this situation, and I really enjoyed getting to see the characters. It does jump from different perspectives, so you get to see the pilot's perspective, you get to see his flight attendant's perspective, you get to see a police officer's perspective, you get to see the wife's perspective. There's so many different people whose perspectives you get throughout this book, and it was just really enjoyable. I actually cried. I cried during this book. Towards the end, it was just what was happening and the way the characters just like came together and made me emotional. This book got me sad and happy at the same time. So that's why I ended up giving this a 4 stars. And the last book that I read this month was Unmissing by Minka Kent. This is a thriller about a wife who went missing 10 years prior and was assumed dead, and she is back. in present day. So the new wife, the man did remarry, the new wife opens the door, and then there is the wife who went missing 10 years ago. This one, it does jump between two perspectives. It jumps between the new wife and the old wife, so you get to see both of their perspectives. This one does have a pretty good twist. I did kind of guess what was going to happen, and it gives you a couple twists throughout the book. So if you find out a twist like halfway through, it's okay. There's more. It will keep going. There's a few extra twists that you'll find out as you read. And by the end of this book, I think it was just a good thriller. It was a quicker read. It was a shorter book. It was less than 300 pages. Yeah. It's like 220 some pages. So it was a quick read. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed getting to see or get to theorize what was going to happen. I think it was a solid book. I ended up giving it a 3.5 just because I was able to guess a lot of the plot twists that happened. But it was still a good thriller. I did enjoy it, and it did keep me guessing until the very end. And there are twists sprinkled throughout the entire book. And that is it for my October wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did get to enjoy a lot of books this month, and I'm really looking forward to this upcoming month. There's so many good books that are coming out in November. I can't wait. Iron Flame. So excited, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it gave you some new books to read, or if you've read them, please give me your opinions, thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye. Can't reach the camera.